Hey everyone, you're about to watch a very entertaining interview with Dominic Crapuchettes about Magic the Gathering. Tragically, Dominic's partner and the co-founder of North Star Games, Satish Pillalamari, passed away not too long before this interview was recorded. North Star Games is doing a fundraiser via GoFundMe, or if you buy a copy of their game Dude through their website. All of these donations and proceeds from purchases of that game right now are going towards a scholarship for Satish's son. So if you have a chance, we will have a link in the description. We recommend that you take a look, donate if you can. Thanks.
Welcome to Roll for Credit. We are joined once again by Dominic from North Star Games, and the reason he is here with us is because if you weren't watching our Gen Con streams, which you can still go back and watch them, they're entertaining. But we talked about with him about some games, but it also came up that you have a good history in Magic, so I thought we could have a fun discussion talking about our connection with Magic and how it brought us into board games. But start off, why don't you tell us your history with Magic and where it all began?
Oh my God, my history with Magic. So, I'll start with the very, very, very beginning, which is a friend of mine who actually helped design Wits and Wagers with me, brought this little card game, and we just split the deck in half, and then we played, and it became very clear that whoever got the Hypnotic Spectre just won, and that was basically what happened, or land screwed, because we're all playing 5 colors. Then driving back, I was at college in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and driving back to California, I stopped at game stores as I normally do, like driving through, and I was like, game store. And they had all these Magic singles for sale. And all of a sudden I realized, you buy certain cards and you make a deck. And I went crazy just thinking about, so for the rest of that drive home, just thinking about what about this card and this card? Oh my God. And then I saw this card. What about, oh my God. And so I was hooked immediately and started playing. But my decks were not pro level decks because I was just a junkie from a store. And then got invited for some reason. Went to a tournament, stayed up all night making my tournament deck. And it was a white weenie deck with blues for sleight of mind so I could change protection from white, and it had control magics. And I got schooled, and unsurprisingly, and so then I learned what real, and this was before the pro tournament, but the people that were going to the tournaments and winning the $300 prizes and stuff, were all doing, and so that night, I bought 2 sets of Unlimited from one of them, and I had we had an after hours deck, and someone a tournament. I think we put money on the line because they were they were always throwing down $20 bills, and someone gave me a deck and we played a 2-headed giant, and so I had I learned the deck, and they were all mad at me because I'd take forever to a demonic tutor, and I'd search through my library at every single card and read it, and they're just just take the regrowth, the mind twist, and the mind twist. Oh my God.
Oh God, good thing that scrying didn't exist yet, or else they'd be angrier.
Which one?
Scrying. You get to look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or bottom now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I got hooked. The first pro tour was a call up, and get invited. And I called up, hundreds of times. And an hour and a half later, I got accepted. And I had already given up, but for some reason I went through. And then I got on the permanent invite list, and I was invited to every pro tournament for the first 5 or 6 years. Until I kind of stopped doing Magic. And then it kind of culminated, I will brag a little bit here, in on the tournament when I said this is my last tournament, I'm going to focus on starting a board game company. And I took second place. I lost to John Finkel's, who is one of the all-time famous greats of Magic, in the finals. But I took second place. And I think part of the reason, honestly, was I slept well that night because I was it doesn't matter. I'm done with this. And I was not very stressed. And on top of that, I didn't get land screwed very much. Land screwed is really important. I got land screwed in a ratio of 1 to 3. I only got when I got land screwed, it wasn't 2 in a row, because then you'd lose your turn.
Yeah, no one loves that. But what was the deck you're playing out of curiosity for that one?
It was a sealed deck. It was
sealed.
Tempest Stronghold. Yeah, that my passion and love was for sealed because I'm a game designer at heart. So I had to look at these things and like design, I guess, a deck.
And so, like you said, that's when you switched over to board games. How was that transition? Because I'll talk about my experience with that. You know, I started with Magic in about 7th or 8th grade. Well, technically earlier, but that was a little bit more like just buying packs because I was a kid and didn't really know the rules. And in my mind, it's like, yeah, you need to have these really competitive decks. But then once I transitioned to board games much later, mostly through Jonathan, it's like, oh, I just need to buy the one box and I'm good. It's all there. What was that like switching over from the pack style to board games?
Sorry about the phone. So I call Magic a lifestyle game. And a game is a lifestyle game when if you say, like when people say I am a chess player, chess is a lifestyle game. I'm a bridge player. I'm a poker player. They're not board gamers, they're not gamers. They play a specific thing. I was a Magic player. Now, I was a gamer before that, but during that 5-year period, I basically played Magic and nothing else. And I remember one of my Magic friends trying to say, hey, there's this really cool German game called Die Settler, Dies Catan or whatever, because it was still in German. And I was like, who's got time for that? Like, I couldn't believe one of my Pro Tour friends was taking time out for some other little thing. And then later, I was introduced by the boyfriend of the sister of my girlfriend. And we started playing German games every Sunday morning. We'd have like breakfast in German games. And I started increasingly, what was the transition like? I mean, what I loved was that other people would play. Like I basically had like my gamer friends and my friends. And they never really mingled together. So it was really fun to have like the people that I considered closer to me as friends would actually play games with me. So that was where I think the light bulb went off for me.
Playing Magic, the strategies, knowing what to do, maybe some of the words you use, sort of get brought into your board gaming style, whether it's the games you play, like how you draft in Seven Wonders, or maybe what you design, which you can actually talk about since you run a company that makes board games.
Yeah, huge impact. I mean, so I played Magic with Justin Gary, who later designed Ascension and Shards of Infinity and started, that company, Stoneblade Entertainment. And then I played with Darwin Castle, and I didn't really play with Rob Dougherty. He ran a game store that I had heard of, and they did Star Realms and White Wizard games. And so there's a pretty strong history of people coming from Magic into the board game world because we have such a strong, when you're designing decks, it's almost like designing a game, because you're studying like decks and why decks are balanced and why this is more powerful. And, you're studying it, and how important is it to draw cards and how important is it for board control and how important is your life? And, how does that change as you get closer to zero? And so there's, when you're learning at the level of being a pro, you're really digging deep into all the mechanisms. And probably all of us, I had designed several sets of Magic, and I always had opinions about where I wanted Magic to go. And, so I'm sure that the three of us who ended up in the board game space all felt the same way.
I'm still waiting on my sliver only set, but apparently that's not in the cards right now.
You have to design
it. Apparently it's unfair when a sliver costs 1 and gives you win the game. But
that's fair. That's fair. That works.
But how does you think, like we mentioned the strategies, but what do you think of Magic in terms of like running the business or its space in the board game tabletop world? Like a lot of times it's brought up that for at least TCGs, it's very hard to break past the Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon. Like they're the three giants that sort of just own that territory. Do you feel that same way at all with board games, or?
Wait, for board games or for?
Just in general, like on the tabletop, like are they just such a big presence at the table?
So, I mean, with the trading card game world, it's way bigger than our tiny little hobby world. board games, even though board games have exploded. Yeah, I think it's unwise. Anytime I see people raise $2 million to start a company, I just think it's silly. Pokemon was a $500 million enterprise, where starting with cartoon series, and same with Yu-Gi-Oh. And there's like a proven formula for when you have $1 billion to play with, how you can create a whole ecosystem, which includes a TTC, a trading card game. And I wouldn't try to play in that space unless I had $500 million to play in that space. And in that case, you also need to have the relationships with distribution and CBS and NBC and cartoons and all the Hollywood stuff and what's going to create a big, huge fervor. But our board game space is completely different. I think there's always space right now in our board game space because we're also dealing with adults and we can reach directly to adults. We don't have to go through ABC, NBC, Cartoon Network, one of the big established channels to reach these people. They, follow podcasts and they go to the Board Game Geek and they do research, and there are ways to reach them through social media just directly. And largely we're adults, a bunch of adults that are playing these games. And so it's a different animal, and it's a space that I really like being in.
My age, I think, is up to question. At least my maturity is at the very least up to question.
All right, I've got a question. Hi, I'm here too. Let's say hypothetically, Dom, if you did get $500 million, what would your CCG be? If someone said, here's your dream budget, blue sky it, what are you gonna make, and how are you gonna compete with Magic?
First of all, Jonathan, thank you for the offer. I really appreciate it. I have some plans, and this is awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. What would I do? So there were times when I dreamed big like that, but as I've spent more time in business and just realized like there's just a lot of things that are off limits, and it's not even worth trying. I think I've been reining myself into like what amazing projects are possible, like Gloomhaven. There are amazing projects that are possible on smaller scopes. If I had $500 million, I'm just now ad-libbing on the spot. I would definitely love to do an adventure video game, and I might as well just tie that into a TCG. If someone else wants to do a cartoon series, that would be awesome. But I would not be the right person for that. I don't think I have anything more than that. I mean, it would take time to think about. It would
Fair
not.
enough.
It would not be fishing on a boat in Alaska.
I'm sure Jonathan will be open to voice all the characters for the cartoon show.
Yeah. When the cartoon's out, we're around. We can do voices. We can do rudimentary animation. Very much available for that.
You're okay with stick figures, right?
Yeah, stick figures are good. When you said adventure video game, do you mean like in the broader sense of like going on an adventure, or like the actual genre of like an adventure, like dialogue trees and using items on stuff, that kind of adventure game?
Like Zork, like back in my day.
Yeah.
Okay. No, more of like Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
So I played. You probably don't even know any of these brands, but I played Wizardry 1, Wizardry 2, Wizardry 3, Wizardry 4.
I've heard of them, but never played them. No.
Ultima 1, Ultima 2. So those were all the very first like Dungeons and Dragons. I played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first printing. So back in that day, that was like the computerized versions. And then I basically played Civ in college and no computer games until Breath of the Wild. And oh my God, I loved it. It was amazing.
That's quite a transition.
Yeah. It was a huge transition, and it's amazing. It's awesome. So yeah, I would be with a huge budget. I'd probably be inspired to do something like Breath of the Wild.
Well, here's a somewhat related question: if Wizards came to you to design a Magic the Gathering board game, what would it be?
Oh, cool. Well, clearly, wizards battling and casting spells to summon monsters to fight. And I mean, it would be really fun to put that into like a 3D space, so because right now Magic doesn't have a 3D space. It just has like damage There's not like actually tactics involved. Well, there are tactics, but it's not in it doesn't have like a board element. So it'd be kind of like a 3D miniature with cards. I mean, there's a lot of games that have already done that, but I think that's the right.
That was actually one of Wizards' ideas too, and it wasn't that good.
It wasn't that good.
Oh, you can look it up. It's a weird miniatures tactical set that is like had the weirdest rules where
you
if
rolled
someone
some
says
dice. I played this game. I remember when it was released at Gen Con.
Didn't work so well. I think it like went on extreme discount afterwards.
Oh, wait, I don't know. That might be a different one that I'm thinking of. They may have tried to do this several times.
Yeah, Arena of the Planeswalkers is the one that we're thinking of. That came out 2 or 3 years ago, I think, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about one that came out probably early 2000s, maybe 2005. I don't know.
You know what the problem is? Wizards, you got to come to North Star Games. They will make your good Magic the Gathering board game.
We could do it.
You mentioned building a set. What would be, which is just be very interesting because you have not seen, as far as I know, some of the newer Magic the Gathering cards. If you could design one card, what would it be?
One card.
One card. You get one card.
One card. Well, it would probably involve something kind of either card drawing or like combo-y, like something that's to me fun. It wouldn't be just like a big creature, which to my son would be the most fun. And I did a lot of that with Oceans because it is fun. I love seeing people light up with these big monsters. But for me, it would probably be, I mean, some of my favorite decks are when I use things in unexpected ways and like the synergies all just work together so well. And I was like, man, this deck for some reason works.
So it'd be something that required other things to maybe help create some crazy engine.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean,
Any idea what colors?
Well, blue if it's card drawing. Is Intuition still around?
I have to double check on the names. I'm always forgetful.
So Intuition, you go into your deck and you draw 3 cards, and then you show it to your opponent, and they pick one for your hand, and the other 2 go in your discard.
There is a card similar to that. I think it's a Fact or Fiction that people.
I remember Fact or Fiction. Yeah, this was before that. I think that cost 4.
Yeah.
Intuition is 1 blue and 2 colorless.
Yeah, they've made some more cards like that. Not too many though. Now a lot of drawings in green now. So not sure if you knew about that.
I was a green-red player originally. I was just like quick creatures and burn.
Well, green's doing very well at this moment. In fact, I'm going to bring up some of the interesting stories that have been happening in Magic recently and hear your thoughts as someone who used to play in the older settings and how you feel about hearing about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So first off, a lot of the game now has the Planeswalker cards. That's often called the Jace League because the leader, quote unquote, is Jace. So they're doing more of a like superhero comics characters you follow. What is your thought on that?
Oh, my thoughts on that? My son loves them. I think they're interesting. I'm okay with it. I don't think I have a lot of thoughts because I've never played at a pro level with them. My son now plays casually. And so every now and then we open up packs and we get them. And I have to remember what the rules are every time.
Well, yeah, Planeswalkers cards didn't exist back then, so that's a whole another fun boat. Well, maybe that's the next one. What do you think about Planeswalker cards?
I mean, so I'm of 2 minds. Anytime you add complication, you're putting a bigger barrier to entry for new people. And so I haven't gotten under the hood enough to know whether like all the extra complication is worth like the value that you get from it. But because the extra complication I already know. So unlike Jonathan, who's got all these barriers, for Jonathan, I'd say, no, it's a terrible idea. It's just pushing people out of the game to have to know more stuff. But for people who are already under the hood, I mean, I like it. It's interesting and it adds there are these really powerful things, but you can actually just flat out attack them, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I'm fine with it.
Well, actually, let's use that barriers you're talking about with Jonathan as the next topic. You started very early on in Magic, and your collection consists of many cards, which even for some right now, I mostly just play Commander, which is quote unquote casual. it requires some of those cards, and those cards now are extremely expensive. So how do you feel about when they say that they're not going to print some of those cards ever again, or only print them in very limited small quantities when there's people like Jonathan who pretty much didn't start when they were easy to get in a pack?
So how do I feel? I mean, it's part of the business model. They make scarcity. It only works if you've already got like a ton of people that already care. You can't really make scarcity with a new thing that no one cares about. What do I think? I mean, it's not the same sort of experience of like, oh, we're playing games and we're going head to head to see who wins. It brings a whole nother element of like pocketbook into it, and and all the new mobile games do the same thing. You can either pay your time and grind and grind and grind, or you can just pay money and just bypass some of the boring stuff. And what do I think? It's on the side that's trying to earn money, I understand that you have to earn money at the end of the day. And so you have to figure out what is the way that we're going to earn money. And there's some things that are really effective. And those microtransactions are super effective when you can kind of find ways to just get people to habitually have your cup of coffee every morning involved in their life. And it's $2 and that's just part of their life. And they get this buzz of like excitement of what they might have, and their endorphins go, and they've studied the psychology of all this stuff and figured out how to monetize it. I feel like on the one hand, they're figuring out how to monetize it. The place where it crosses the line to me is when they really study on how to prey and make people addicted, and they've really studied the art, I know, with the video games, and they've done a great job of it. How do we make it so that you get these really cool feelings and it becomes a habit, and then we slowly take away those feelings and we say, oh, but you can have it back if you give us some money. And it's just classic drug scenarios, but selling Magic the Gathering is legal and selling crack cocaine is not. I mean, these crack dealers in the 80s, they studied it. They gave away free samples, and they figured out how to slowly rope people in and get them to become addicted and buy every day. And so I'm okay with it all the way until I really feel like they're preying on people's insecurities, or people's insecurities, basically.
I guess my question, though, is what makes it a little different is in the examples you gave, both the drug dealer and also the microtransactions, that money is going to the main person behind it. Not printing Tundras, for example, isn't like the copies. If I buy Tundra now that's expensive, that isn't going to Wizards of the Coast, I guess, is what I'm curious about, since this is the secondary market, which they, as far as I know, will not acknowledge exists.
That's hilarious. I mean, they clearly know it exists, and they clearly like it, because you get a whole bunch of people like my son who want to speculate on the value, and there's a whole lot of speculators on the stock market. I mean, like, I'd say more than half the stock market are day traders that are just kind of like not really studying the companies and what the long-term value is to the country, and figuring out how to allocate the country's resources in the best way, which is what like the stock market really actually does. They're just gambling. And my son is doing it with Pokemon cards.
So are packs gambling?
Well, it depends how you use it in your life. I mean, my son is, because he doesn't even play Pokemon. He's
just looking for a Charizard.
Yeah, Charizard, and then I think he's gotten burned by fakes, and yeah, that stung. And he was like, yeah, that stings.
You've mentioned your son getting into Magic and all that. Has that made you like kind of come back and look at the game through a different lens? And is there anything you think that could happen in Magic or in your life that would make you want to really get back into playing it on a regular basis again?
If my son went pro, I would get good enough to help him out. I mean, I would say it's magical to see it through my son's eyes. I mean, like they're doing something right. I mean, little boys like to battle.
Does he only play paper, or does he do it on Arena?
Just paper. He does Minecraft and Roblox and other things online. Lots of cool things going on online too. No, but Magic, I think he would say Magic is his favorite game. And I've got hundreds of
Oh.
board games.
That doesn't sting a little?
It stings a little. But it's not so much stings as much as like I'm a little bit disappointed because I want to bring them into my passion, but it's also cool. I'm like, they've really like, it goes into the zeitgeist of being a little boy and wanting to be powerful and the wonder of all these things out there. And like, it sparks so many important things that it's like, there's a reason why it's really popular. Like it's working on a whole lot of levels, and it's captivating my son, and his desire to be a superhero, and his excitement of finding new things and exploring and thinking about how this might work, and it's working, and he's engaged. It's doing a lot of good things. I mean, it does also make him want to just, Dad, can you buy me this? Dad, can you buy me this?
Well, you can use that as incentive. I know as a kid, for me, it was like there was a system when you did enough chores, you earned a pack or something.
Well, that is exactly why he's hooked. He hated reading. He had a difficult time reading. And so I started buying him in packs, and he would have to read them. I'm like, you can have the cards if you just read every single card to me. And that's how it started.
I thought you were going to make him read books. No, we're just going to stick with the cards. We don't need those pictureless white text.
He is actually reading books now too, but I think I credit his third grade teacher a lot with that.
That probably helps a little bit, yeah. And so I'm surprised actually he didn't go to Arena, because I feel like being younger, he'd be more attracted to the digital side. Where one, it's a little bit easier to keep your collection. It doesn't take up 4 or 5 shelves, or a table in my case, as Jonathan can attest to right now. Is it just that he didn't know about it? And like, what are your thoughts? Have you ever thought of jumping in Arena? Because it is free to play, quote unquote.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that model of free. Well, I guess I never introduced it to him. That's a good question. I don't really know. When I played, it was kind of annoying because there's all these instants and interrupts. Like the game wasn't designed for online play. And so it was like, are you going to do something? No. Are you going to do something? No. So I actually didn't find it to be the best online experience, as opposed to just like, I mean, the other, there's a bunch of other ones that I love, some that unfortunately did not do well. But I mean, there's what's the big, huge one?
Hearthstone?
Hearthstone, yeah.
It's interesting because there is a timer, but I think if you literally cannot do anything, the computer automatically jumps through, so you can sort of tell if someone doesn't have a battle trick.
Oh, so they don't have a counter spell?
Yeah, like...
God!
I think it will just step through, so if the phases go through quick enough, you just go through. So sometimes it's good to have that creature like... I can't remember the name of it, but I have a bad red aggro deck that has a goblin that's tapped. A 2 power creature is unblockable. So it's technically a ways to see if I'm going to do it, even though it would make no sense every time. But that way they don't know if I actually have a trick up my sleeve or not.
Oh, that's funny.
I've experienced that in maybe Hearthstone or one of the other games too, where that kind of thing in digital games when it's like, well, it just skipped right through, so obviously they didn't have to make a choice. Yeah, that can be a little bit of a meta thing that can throw a wrench in the works.
Yeah, well, back when I played Hearthstone, they had no instants and interrupts. You just played cards on your turn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's still true or not. I haven't played Hearthstone in a long time.
My favorite was the one that Justin Gary did with Stoneblade Entertainment, and now I can't even remember the name of it, but that is by far my favorite. I guess he, worked a little bit with Garfield on it, and I don't know if it's ringing any bell. I kind of want to pull it up, but
I'm gonna look it up. Soulforge?
Yes, Soulforge. Oh, that is by far my favorite trading card game experience of all. Wow. Better than Magic, better than everything. I just loved it. That one was amazing.
Well, that actually reminds me about this. This is going back to topics. Unlike Hearthstone, Magic is both paper now to digital. And recently, There have been, I believe, more bans in the last year or so than the last 14 years. Like half the bans have been within the last year or two.
Wow, because they're trying to reinvigorate it, so they're bringing in a
Right.
bunch of crazy, untested, broken ideas and going, oh,
Yeah, and what comes up with this, some people said, why don't you just errata in the digital? Like Hearthstone, if there's an overpowered card, they can change the text.
immediately. Yeah.
Right. But in Magic, however, if there's a really annoying card, they can't just make it a 1/1 instead or something, Because does that mean, do you think that it should diverge? Should Magic and Arena always have the same playable cards? Or
I
should
I
Arena
understand
decide?
that business-wise, they want, a virtuous cycle, meaning one side markets the other side and the other side markets one side. And I don't know which side makes more money, but I'm going to guess the cardboard side. So that's probably why they don't want to diverge it. But if the digital made more money, yeah, they shouldn't tie the digital's hands because it's a different medium and it can do different things, and it should.
That would be interesting. I mean, I barely play it as is. I mean, I try very hard, and I'm good at keep the free to play part. I want to keep it free because I already spent enough on paper. But that would be very, especially now since we're all remote. That I think they're running their tournaments through that. So
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know enough about this to ask you, but I can tell you, knowing what tournaments are now is very odd. I think they've changed their names like 3 or 4 times. So that's another fun thing for the pro.
Explain that a little more. I didn't catch that.
Like you mentioned, the Magic tournaments, like you knew how to get to the pro scene.
Yeah.
There's now like it's a bit more convoluted and like they have different names and they've changed them each year that even I don't know that well because I didn't even follow it that. So I wish I could ask you about that, but I don't know what to ask to.
Well, they had the Grand Prix.
I don't think they're called those anymore.
Stop that. That was like feeder tournaments into the Pro Tour, I guess.
I think it's like called the Mythic Cup or something. But I do know that actually recently occurred, and because of that, 6 of the top 8 decks used one card mechanic. Or one card with supported by the others. So they had like 5 bans this last Monday or so. Now, which is why the banning thing is interesting. And the problem is it's a face card, on the packs.
Oh God.
Okay, all right. So I'll tell you what it is, and we'll see how you feel about it.
Is there chat going on? Like the chat's just going to explode. I'm going to say the wrong.
I would love to see people chime in about all this. I mean, I'm going to be honest. This whole conversation is me being selfish. I just wanted to have this chat with you.
We're going to crash Twitter right now. Let's do it.
All right. So this is the card, and it's going to be fun for you to hear this new card. Its name is Omnith, Locus of Creation. It costs 1 of each color except for black, and it is a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. And when a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's the first time, you gain 4 life. If it's the second time, add 1 of each mana color except for black. If it's the third time, it deals 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker you don't control.
Damn. I don't know what's been going on with power creep, but that sounds insane. I mean, I don't know how hard it is to get the 4 colors. But, there's been a million dual land ways to do that. I mean, first of all, it just pays for itself. So even if they kill it, you got the card back. and they spent a card.
That's what a lot of people are complaining that almost every card now has no disadvantage. It gets you a return as soon as you get it. And in terms of that color fixing, yes, there are 2 colored lands in this. They're not the dual lands of the past. You have to decide whether you play it pretty much as a plains or a forest. They're like one side or the other. And there is Lotus Cobra, which is whenever you play a land, add a mana of any color to your pool.
Oh, so that's an enchantment?
No, it's a creature. 1/1 snake. I think it's 1/1.
In green?
Of course. No, green has actually been the issue because everyone is angry at white right now. Because apparently white doesn't have any way to either ramp up or draw or beat an opponent by itself, it seems.
Oh, the whiteys aren't as powerful as they used to be? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what a lot of people are complaining about, yeah. But a lot of that does come from the Commander scene, because in Commander, it's the singleton format where you're playing with 99 cards, and because it's a little bit slower, usually the weenie strategy isn't as strong, putting a bunch of small guys, because then I'm going to play this, because it's Eternal, I'm going to play Armageddon then, and somehow do some tricks on my land stay, and then play 5-10-10s for 2 mana. Because of some weird, some combo they never expected to happen between sets. There is one other big Magic story that happened, and I'm curious your thoughts on. And I've already talked about a little bit with Jonathan on the podcast about this. So I don't know. Do you know about the secret lairs?
No.
All right.
I'm a dad in a company trying to run a company. And
it's pretty much they're like for 24 hours to maybe 3 days, very short period, you can buy a set of these cards from Wizards directly. It's buying singles from Wizards. And usually they're just alternate arts that are pretty, something like that.
Yeah.
They just announced a set of cards that are only going to be printed this way, that are new, and are legal in all Eternal formats. In addition, they're The Walking Dead.
I don't know what The Walking Dead means.
Oh, you don't know that show?
Well, the show, I mean, I've heard of it. I'm not a zombie person, but yeah, I know
that's what I mean. It's those characters from the show.
It's
so
a
it's
license.
not a wizard,
officially
it's not
licensed.
elf. Yes. It's the guy with the baseball bat, or who's really the one everyone's angry about.
But why are we angry? Is it really powerful? Are they powerful cards that you kind of need to get, and the only way to buy it is direct through Wizards? So it's the retail stores that are upset.
I think 2 of them would be used in Eternal formats pretty well. Some people have complained that because it's not a wizard or an elf. These are like, it's a guy wearing khakis and
just breaking the theme.
Right. And then of course, like that, they're only going to be available for 3 days for now, at least, and only, I think North America. I think it's only North America. It's a very limited area. So if you're outside, you can't get a copy of these without getting price gouged in the secondary market, which doesn't exist.
So let me try it. So I mean, Wizards is, they've got a marketing team and they got product development, and they're trying to figure out how to make money. And so they're always coming up with new ideas. They're like, oh, what about this? Oh, this could make, and then they get behind some idea. So I'm trying to understand the idea better. It's a print on demand. Like they're going to first get all the orders and they're going to do a one print one and then ship them all out.
That is correct. Yes.
So yeah, so they're what they're doing there really is cutting out retail. So they're printing paper and they're selling it for a lot of money, and cutting out. So the way the distribution works, and I'm sure for Magic they get a higher percentage of this. But when we go through distribution and it goes through a retail, we get about 40% of the final price. So not even 50%. And then we've got, all of our costs, as in the manufacturing costs and stuff. So if we sell direct, we get 100%. So we more than double the revenue. But that extra amount that we're getting is 100% profit. We don't have extra costs on that because we pass on the shipping costs anyways when we go direct. So I'm sure what they're doing there is experimenting with business models that are going to make them more filthy rich than they are right now in the future, because that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to grow their company and figure out how to grow. And so my guess is they're trying to see, can we bypass retail stores a little bit, and if so, how much, and how much are they going to be mad, and how much are they going to stop carrying us, and do we need them for the tournaments? And, there's all this, power play politics that they're trying to figure out.
It's interesting you mentioned tournaments, because I assume then when you mean retail, you're talking about friendly local gaming stores, not the Amazon and Targets, the big chain stores.
Right, because they can sell directly onto Amazon and be their own seller, and they can be a monopoly, but they're going to use their own platform for something like that. They don't need the extra reach that Amazon's going to bring, because basically, if you're a Magic player, you're a Magic player. And if you've heard about this, you'll go to their website.
And what do you think, though, about going from universes that aren't Magic and not even like Magic adjacent, like Lord of the Rings, which I don't think anyone would bat an eye about Lord of the Rings.
Did they do that? Did they do Lord of the Rings?
Not yet. but I might have just spoiled the next one.
I mean, I'm not into zombies, so
Liliana would be so sad.
what? Who would?
The zombie planeswalker.
So it's not speaking to me, but I can understand that, in their desire to grow, they're going to think about all the different niches that they might be able to serve better with a different theme. I mean, I get what they're trying to do. Do I care? I don't really care. To be honest, when I got to... So I played Magic in two different ways. I played Magic with my girlfriend, and I made purely thematic decks that were not fast decks, that were just slower anyways, because a fast game really isn't fun when it's just like, oh, I got mana screwed and I died and I lost. All right, well, do you want to play again? So we'd play slower games so that mana screws really couldn't happen that much because you couldn't kill them that quickly. And they were all thematic, and I wrote like little stories around the people and who they were, and and that was great fun. But when I get then up to the pro level, there's no theme. It's just mechanics. I don't pay attention. I don't even read the little flavor texts, and a lot of times don't even know the name of the card. I just remember the picture and I know the cost, and it just gets really abstracted when you're just on the pro level because you're just thinking about how to win, and it's not a thematic experience at all. So on that level, I could care less whether the card had a zombie or a dragon or whatever. But on the thematic experience, when I'm making up decks, I probably just wouldn't use those cards. I'd pick different cards.
Well,
how about you? How do you feel about this?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about the show, but the first thing is they did actually Godzilla cards before this, but the way they did them is they're like, it'd be like Godzilla, but underneath it would say like Zarek the Breaker, because it's actually another Magic card. It's just a reskin, not a unique card.
Okay.
And maybe I'm a little biased because of Godzilla cards, but I also feel the art isn't as good on the Walking Dead cards. They look like the more promotional, like the take a shot for AMC, like just standing there with the zombies behind you, versus actually like looking like they're a part of the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of small thing I care about because I usually care about the images. In terms of the uniqueness, it's a little annoying. But I also like, if you're a Walking Dead fan, I'm like, you probably are really happy about it. I was happy with Godzilla cards. So that's my big... I know some people don't like that the villain was made into a card because he has done some very bad things. But one, I have not watched it, so I will not say them. But two, it's like... It becomes an interesting conversation of like what a villain in a game,
How bad can they be?
Right. And also it's like, does it count if they don't explicitly, because we explicitly see the character. Negan, I think his name is, Jonathan?
That's correct, Negan.
We explicitly see him do the terrible things. Like, we don't see...
And you're a Walking Dead fan, Jonathan?
I have watched a lot of the show. I haven't always loved it, but I do know about the lore and everything like that to some extent, yeah.
Versus, like, sometimes we don't see a character do something evil, but it's like if someone's called like Murder Girl, I think was her name, in Ravnica, she's probably done some very messed up things.
Yeah, to me, I don't really understand I don't know. I mean, it's if you don't want to play with that card, don't play with that card. But it seems strange to get up in arms about like a villain in a card game.
Well, the villain was only one thing. The problem is it was all the things combined.
Yeah.
You have to. And also how Wizards sort of just pretended there wasn't any issue. That's always a fun thing.
There wasn't any aftermarket or any what issue?
Like any questioning, like, oh, we're sorry about that. I felt like it was more of just keep going as if nothing's going on,
They don't address the complaints.
Yeah. I think, though, as much as I've loved this, and I'm going to be honest, this is me just completely being self-indulgent. I've taken up enough of your time. I've really loved this, and I'm definitely willing to talk more, even if it's not on camera. Even play some Magic somehow.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
And maybe we can try to trick Jonathan into doing it.
We'll play with The Walking Dead.
That's so.
Now you got me.
I don't think we'll be seeing those printed until for a year.
Oh.
with the delays of everything.
Oh, wow.
But, let us know. We'd love to hear anyone else's thoughts of how Magic has affected your board game space, whether you transition or not, you do both. And of course, if you are looking to get into board games, if you're a Magic player, I think you should take a look at North Star Games, whether it's Party or something, Oceans, a bit more tactical. You're going to find something that you'll enjoy.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to say? Maybe plug to follow you?
No, I don't know who I'm talking to, but if they want to follow me, that's great. I'm on Twitter, Crapuchettes, and I would say if you're interested in the board game space, look at Oceans, because Oceans really, one of the goals was giving a TCG experience in one box. So you buy the box, and yet there's going to be like powerful content that you explore over time. And, I tried to really spark that excitement of like the synergies between cards. So if they're looking for a board game experience, I think Oceans is a good one to start with.
We definitely recommend it. In fact, you can hear our full review of it. And spoilers by what I said, we liked it.
Nice to hear.
It's a good one.
Mm-hmm. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I'm Will.
Oh, I'm Jonathan.
And this is
Dominic. Sorry.
We'll just cut it.
No, we need you in there.
And this is Roll for Crit.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
If you want to help out, you can check out our Patreon, or a simple click to like and subscribe can go a long way.
We really appreciate everything that you can do for us. We love you.